Good afternoon, all. I'm happy to introduce Mr. Akshay Ugale, who is working with Coordination Systems Pune. Um, he has completed his post graduations from AEGI School of Data Science. He has 4+ years of experience in data science, and yeah, he also has a work experience with Unifor, Career Trails, and Sybase. To give a proper introduction of Akshay, I could say that he is a passionate data scientist. He also teach AI to corporate employee and students, and he has 30+ projects on GitHub. He also has his own YouTube channel for data science videos. So over to you.
Okay, so let's get started. So I've currently planned the PPT in this way that first we'll be covering what exactly ML is, and for those audience who don't know exactly what ML is and how it actually works, and then later on we can discuss about the healthcare applications and my experience into data science and what kind of projects I have done. At last, I have also planned for a demo on an end-to-end practical POC use case. So we'll be discussing that
Sorry
also.
for interruption, Akshay. I think our audience have, I mean, they are now. This is a fourth day almost, so they have a knowledge of ML. So it is like you can skip those things and you can go for practical applications directly. No issues.
Okay, fine, sure, no worries. Okay, still I'll go through the slides in brief. Okay, fine. So this might be a redundant thing because if many of people know ML. So yeah, before starting, let me introduce myself a bit. And so my name is Akshay Ugale. My journey into ML began in my fourth year of college when my fourth year project was into ML. At Sybase, I got a chance to work with the Artificial Intelligence Center of Excellence Group. So 4 5 years back, AI was still new to industry, and many clients were doing into POCs and testing whether the technology can is it really worth is it really worth the hype. So roughly for 2 years, I was there at Sybase, working with the Artificial Intelligence Center of Excellence Group. Later, I did a executive PGD at AGs to enhance my skill sets. After that, I worked at Career Trails. I was a part of the data science team at Unifor, which might turn a unicorn soon. And so at Unifor we worked extensively on NLP and speech problems, and they basically have targeted call center industry. So all the call center applications and making the life easier of call center guys, and that industry that was a target of Unifor. After that, I came back to my current company, Coordination Systems, and from past roughly 2 years, I have been working here. And Here also, I have been working as a data scientist, working and have worked on a couple of projects from Malaysia and USA. So that has been my journey, and skipping it. So let me introduce and start the slides. So because the crowd is known to ML, so I'll just take it very quickly and not spend much time on it. Okay. So why artificial intelligence now? Because the data is increasing, we have high computational power, and we have lots of research and algos being developed by top tier one companies like Facebook, Google, Amazon, and a lot of work has been being done continuously in this field at top institutes like Stanford, Carnegie Mellon, and etc. So this technology is really worth the hype, and we all use some kind of application of AI each day. So this is just a graph, just to show how into product development and building websites and products, how technologies have been used. A few years back, like business intelligence was always there. Uh, BI tools like SaaS tools and tools based out of MATLAB and Octave, then even R. So all BI activities were there into industry. Uh, because of this high computational power and the huge amount of data and a lot of research work and the ease with which these algos currently can be implemented, very high tech algos have been made very simplified with the help of different packages in Python, and that is why we saw a surge of machine learning. In 2001 there was a dominance of support vector machines and all. At that time, like you all must have heard about Kaggle. So at that time, competitions on Kaggle were won by building models on SVMs, and I'm not sure whether data boosting was there, but at that time that were how competitions won. But slowly people have moved towards more complex algos. Now in ML, we have different flavors of gradient boostings, XGBoost, CatBoost, Alight GBM. They are currently the standard while building models into industry. And people, if they go with classical machine learning way, so people use that. They use stacking, like the uh, couple of multiple models and then have a voting classifier on top of it. That is how the work currently is done if you want to solve the problem using classical ML right now. In deep learning also, at first there were just ANNs, CNNs and RNNs, but right now in industry, we use transfer learning and pre-trained models and all. So that is the current standard in which into industry the things have been done. At the research side, I feel that the audience itself is very much known to what kind of research is being done. I can just speak from the point of view how in the industry, what is the level and what kind of things are being done. So in this graph, we can see that business intelligence activities are going down. People are moving more towards learning kind of a thing. Rule-based BI things are going down while building products. People are moving towards uh, XGBoost and such kind of classical ML, and also deep learning things, building complex pre-trained models, so many increasing the number of parameters and building huge models on top of it. We have seen GPT-3 or GPT-4 having so many parameters. The parameters are there in billions, I think, and there's a constant race between OpenAI, Google, Amazon to be the best. Even we see a lot about them because the technology needs to be open sourced. If we see the Chinese AI, China is better at artificial intelligence in the world than any other country, and still a lot of work has not been open source there because of the different kind of laws they might be having. But that is the state, and deep learning is currently very heavily used in while building any products. Top emerging jobs. So definitely many of the jobs right now are revolving around this only. Data scientists, ML engineers, data engineers, even the business analysts right now who work as a business facing clients. So even those guys are expected to know some amount of data science. Even the guys who are graduating doing MBAs, they have data science as a subject, as a different specialization which they can do. At first, the MBA guys are generally the one who face clients a lot. These are the folks who work a lot on Excel. They are very good on Excel and some of the BI tools. But now, while even hiring them, they are being asked about can you find the insights out of data, and even that is a skill set which the industry wants now, and that is why customer success manager is in the fourth place. Why Python? I think I don't need to answer. Everyone knows why Python. Uh, then how Python has evolved over time and taken over R, and currently almost 90% of the projects into data science are done in Python. Why Python? Everyone knows. I won't spend time there. Just a thing. Companies using Python. Everyone knows what's the difference between AI, machine learning, and deep learning. Just I'll speak 5 minutes on it. So, deep learning is kind of the heart of machine learning, or we can say it is a subset of machine learning. And ML actually is the heart of artificial intelligence. It's a very big circle, and ML is a part of it. And we have some other fields also like NLP, computer vision, and all these fields are big data. All these fields have many common gray areas. And in combined right now in industry, whenever someone wants any skill set, they really ask for everything. They ask for ML, they ask for DL, they ask for NLP, they ask for CV, they want time series modeling. They even want, if it's a startup, they even want the data scientists to know about data engineering, scheduling cron, and our deployments and all. Deployment is a mandatory thing, so that is needed only. Then just a thing on what was the ideology behind ML. We have just followed the way we actually train our kids. We teach them small things. We show them. They have to do a lot of mug-up activity like A for apple, B for ball at the beginning just to know the alphabets. That is exactly how supervised learning works. We show them labeled data, and we try to with this lot of data, the machine or the algo tries to make sense out of it. So there's a lot of similarity in the way we are learning our kids and the way we are learning machines. And because of this similarity, people have concepts of artificial general intelligence, artificial there are other two terms which I'm not currently recalling. So the point is that AI can take over humans or not. So that concept has come from here only because we are following the way our human brain has learned actually about things, and we are just trying to replicate that thing into machines, and hence we have so much advanced robots and such kind of other machinery and things which are doing activities at par of humans in many use cases. We are currently still in a phase where AI is not even, I feel so, 20% of capable of what exactly humans is. But with time, we will see the era of maybe general intelligence and then super AI intelligence also. Not now, but maybe after many couple of years later. What ML is? So it began in 1960s. Arthur Samuel just defined it. It's a field of study that gives computers the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. This is how a traditional programming works: data, program, computer, output. In ML, it's reversed. We show data and output, and we try to create a function, and we want the parameters out of it. This was Tom Mitchell's definition, where from the experience E with respect to some task T, we want the performance to increase. So performance should increase in task T with the experience. This is the same thing. These are some of the applications: fraud detection, speech ML application. Just two things. Okay, so ML basically is into two major categories: supervised, unsupervised, and then we have a third category of reinforcement learning. And in this way, it's divided. So in industry, what happens is whenever any client approaches us, we want to see whether ML can be applied, or can we leverage AI into our product. So the first question we ask is, do you really have data? Because without data, you cannot do anything. And this is the biggest challenge we face into industry. That First of all, clients don't have data, but they want the thing to be there, and that too in a very short time. And because of the methodology, they want the activities to be done into sprints, and that makes it more challenging. You all must have heard, you all must be knowing about Agile and Sprint. If not, I'll just give a short preview of what it is. So, whenever any software is built into IT, then there are different kind of software development lifecycle models on which any software is built. You have a manager and you have a team building your product. So, so they follow software development lifecycle uh, methodology. At beginning, it was just simple waterfall model. First you collect all the requirements, then you do the development, then you do testing, and then you fix all those things. So simple step by step waterfall model. To make it more better and fast, they introduced a recurring waterfall model. When just some sort of activities were done, then again to fix those bugs in this way. Now, this was followed like 20-30 years back, when I think so in 2000, I won't say 30 years, 30 years is too much. In 2000 and that kind of time, that is how softwares were built. Right now in industry, almost everyone uses Agile, everyone follows Scrum. And how Scrum and Agile works is you have a client, and you have a client facing person. So it is generally the BA or the business analyst who have a talk with the client, and they fixate the requirements of what exactly do you want and all those things. In that meeting, while fixating the requirements, you have a technical architect to add the technical expertise while fixing the requirement, whether it's possible or not. And you also have the key stakeholders like project manager, and majorly you have these people for sure. Then once the requirements are freezed, you have these requirements allocated to the team in the form of sprints. And sprints and all, they work on agile methodology. And in agile, what happens is you have 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks sprint. And work is allocated of 2 weeks to the team. Now, who does that allocation? It is done by scrum master. So scrum master is a person who having a playing a poker game with the team. So what poker game is? Poker game is where now the team, now the BAs and these guys have the requirements with them, but whether it is feasible or not, that needs to be discussed with the team, right? So there's one thing called as poker game, in which every team along with scrum master uh, plays the game. So the sprint activities are shown to the team, and on those activities, every person in the team anonymously needs to give a rating, like a rating of 2, 3, 5, 8. And these ratings are an indication of how big that task is. So, and once that is done, then some amount of discussion, and the sprint is finalized. So sprint is finalized, then the development team starts the work. If they have any confusion, they contact the BA or the Scrum Master. Every day in the beginning, you have a daily Scrum call of 10 minutes. At the end of the day, you have some short meeting just to check the progress. After that, once the development is done, the build is pushed to the QA. The QA guys test it. If there are any bugs, they go back, and in this way, at the end of the sprint, the deployment is done. Now, in this 2 week sprint, fixing data science activity is still something which some people don't do it and some people do it. So at Uni4 and my company, my senior data scientist was strictly against this. He was like, no, we cannot build data science models in sprint. It is because it is just very much different from the way normal development works. In my current company, Coditation, because of the I don't know why they have kept it, but here for at least 5 4 sprints we went ahead with the agile thing only. But later on, when we faced the challenge of it is not working properly, then we went ahead with the Kanban board. So it's a different kind of thing where you just have tickets on the board and you pick the ticket, and as per your allocated time, you solve it. So why I'm discussing this is because clients generally want sprint only. They want things to be done into agile because that is, as per them, it's a standard and it gets done quickly. But the way data science models are built, for example, if it's a supervised model and if the labeling is not done, it is a very time consuming task. And you also have to give a lot of emphasis on the R&D activities. You might have to go through some papers, you might have to go through some articles. So you cannot say that, okay, fine, for this task, for this R&D activity, I'll be needing 1 day. That is the gray area there, and because of that gray area, it becomes challenging. That is first challenge. Second challenge, which I face, like, these are my challenges. Some other people might be really good, they might be better than me, so they might not face this challenge, but these are the challenges which I and my team have faced. So the first thing is making an analysis on the research part, that is the gray area. Second thing is, whenever you have a bug or you have any issue, for example, into production, and if you think that, okay, fine, we have a fresh set of data and this was not covered into training, then you have to do it again, everything. You have to train the model again, and it is not something which can be done into 15 minutes, 20 minutes. If you have very high computation power GPUs, it becomes easy. But if the data is very huge, if it's in TBs and all, that becomes a challenge. So these are the two challenges which I have faced uh, while uh, mixing data science thing while building products with agile. So, and that is the thing, how it is done. So whenever client comes up, he tells us that you don't have data, or and these kind of things. Mm, solving that problem into agile is a challenge, and it depends on how the problem is. For example, if it's a supervised learning problem, if you don't have labels, then it becomes more bad. For example, if you can use some pre-trained libraries and do it, it's okay. So it depends from problem to problem. So in some cases you can do it, in some cases you're not. Yeah, back to the slide. These are the major classifications into ML. Almost everyone must be knowing this. So if you have label data, we prefer supervised learning only. If you want to focus on analysis and insights, maybe outlier detection and finding insights and patterns, then you have to go with unsupervised approaches. Uh, Reinforcement learning is something which is, I think so, more into currently research phase only. While building normal e-commerce and such kind of applications, reinforcement learning is not very much used right now into IT industry. Like in my experience and my thought process, I've never seen any uh, application or where reinforcement learning is preferred. Maybe because of two reasons. Currently, it is not that very much uh, the ease of using it is not very much there. And secondly, the way reinforcement learning works. So even that thing also creates an issue. So, but in some use cases, like where robots are involved, like in such kind of things, reinforcement learning is very heavily used. But for simple activities like maybe classification, regression, and such kind of things, reinforcement learning is kept away. So this is just what supervised is and unsupervised is. If you have labeled data is supervised. If it is and in unsupervised learning, it's non-labeled data. Then learning associations. So whenever you want to find insights, you can use market basket analysis. You find the support and those kind of things, and there you find out the insights. Anomaly detection, another unsupervised approach where you find the outliers, and the outliers are important for the companies. So while one of the use case which we solved by anomaly detection was we the client actually wanted to have a trigger kind of a mechanism whenever the sales go very up, or any one parameter is not behaving normally, whether it is losses, profits, sales, or any other thing. So they want a customized message to be triggered on Slack. So solving that, we went ahead with anomaly detection at that time. Clustering, you make clusters and you find and you try to do analysis of it. Compression techniques, you try to preserve the variance by keeping or lowering the size. So generally, people say that don't share the photo on WhatsApp. Quality goes down. So that is exactly WhatsApp is doing. It tries to preserve the variance, but the quality decreases. Reinforcement learning, you have agent, environment, state, action. If the agent performs good, he gets reward. If he's not performing good, then he's penalized for it. Self-driving cars and making the recommendation system stronger. Reinforcement learning is heavily used. Tesla and all the other major companies are very heavily using reinforcement learning for making the cars self-independent. Even Boston Dynamics and all, while making the robots independent and doing all the activities, reinforcement learning is heavily used. Wherever there's a robot involved or any machine involved, a reinforcement learning is there to give it that intelligence. And deep learning. So deep learning is just the we are trying to mimic how our brain works. We have the way our biological brain works. We have axon, dendrite, synapses. We have the connections of different neurons. So that exact thing is replicated into mathematical form. You have input layer, output layer, hidden layers. This is another example of deep learning convolutional architecture, where how CNNs are used for decoding the faces. So at first, you try to find the small patterns, like the eyebrows, the small things of ears and all. Then you try to make sense out of those edges, whether it is a nose or an ear and such kind of thing. And lastly, you try to make sense of that, and you actually make you try to form the faces from it. So yeah, so let's discuss about AI into healthcare a bit now. But before that, any questions, doubts, or any other thing? Just wanted to know. Okay, there are chats. Okay, fine. Or should I continue next? Oh. So anyone maybe? And the guys who are very much aware with ML, this is not of much use to them. Okay, fine. I'll continue. So before moving towards AI into healthcare, I'll like to discuss about my experience. Uh, so in healthcare is a very big domain. I have just 4 years of experience, so I'm not a very big expert into healthcare, and maybe in the participants itself there will be folks who have done much more work than me here. I can just speak what my experience is and what the healthcare exposure I have. So healthcare and the way hospitals work, uh, it is just about making their life easier and making the patient's life easier also. So the way hospital industry works, everything revolving around whether it is drugs, whether it is the utilities and the tools they use, CT scan, MRI scan, whether it is the new drugs, whether it is the insurance activities into healthcare, and whether helping doctors into building a robotic assistant from it. So that is the core area where AI has affected, and I won't say affected, it's a very negative word, impacted. So AI has impacted. Now, in which areas I have worked actually? I have worked into healthcare medical insurance. So there, at Unifor, we work for a US client, UNMR, United Health Group. UMR is the subsidiary of it, United Health Group. So in US, the healthcare is handled by the government, and in India, you take either you have corporate insurances, healthcare insurances, or you go through some policy bazaar insurances and these things, and you go that way. If you want find insurances, you take their point of contact. He tells you to fill the forms, and once the forms are filled, it needs to have lots of signatures and stamp from the doctors, all the pathologists and different tests which have been taken, and those kind of things. And after that, once that is done, it goes to the insurance company. It checks it. If you have any issues, you can have a call and conversation on the phone, and you get a settlement maybe in 1 month, 2 months, and if they have any issues, they come up with that. So recently I had the exposure of hospitals also. My mother went through a critical spine, a lumbar spine surgery, and just 2 months back only, my grandma had a cardiac arrest. So even at that time, I had exposure of how this hospital industry actually working. The doctor is the main guy. They have kept the intensivist, they have the nurses, and the account section is there. And the MRI guys are building the drugs. They are not building, but they're marketing the drugs. And there's a lot of commission thing going on. So in this entire space of this healthcare industry, uh, almost in many areas, AI has impacted. The first area which has impacted a lot is diagnosing the diseases. So whether it is the orthopedics, whether it is the nerve side, or whether it is the heart side, AI has impacted in many areas. So there are many startups who are doing incredibly well by using different techniques in different sort of areas. There's a startup named Synapsys.io, I feel, or AI, I don't remember. They have their products revolving around this. Is there any question? Should I continue? Okay, sorry. Um, so the startup name is Synapsys.io, and they have built. The founder is a doctor from Ames, and there's a ex. What's his name? I'm not recalling. Uh, I recently had a talk with him like few months back. Uh, Ex Goldman Sachs BP. He's from IIT Kharagpur, and they have built a radiology product. So the MRI machines which we see, which are built by these big companies like General Electric and Siemens. So if anyone must have experience of the MRI machine, it's a very big machine, and the patient needs to be there for 25-30 minutes, and a lot of noises are there, and at the end of the day you get a big black screen with lots of diagnosed part. Now once that report is generated, even for generating those reports, they have a software there. There's a radiology software which the which the General Electric or the Siemens guys have given to operate on that machine. Okay, uh, they, with the help of computers, they get the black films and then it is printed. Now what happens is once the printing is done, at that time the expert radiologist comes into picture. Now he reading all those things and with his experience of the degree he has, and his experience into this thing, he comes up with a report, and that report is called as MRI report. And in a very summarized and a concise way, he tells what it is. Now that entire activity, if you see, uh, it takes around, if he has so many patients at hand, if you do the MRI now, he will say you just take the MRI at night or maybe tomorrow. So it's a very time consuming activity, and also we are dependent on his intellect and his experience also. Now how these guys have solved it? Now Synapsys.io, what they have done is they are using object detection heavily. uh, like way I had a talk with with the data scientists. They're using object detection heavily. They are using YOLO only. They are using YOLO, and in some cases, it's just a standard object detection thing, not YOLO. Uh, they're using it heavily, and with that, they are finding the flaws in the lumbar spine or the a cervical thing, and that is making the job of the radiologist much easier. Now he doesn't has to scan all the 6 MRI reports. Like recently for my mother's lumbar spine surgery, I saw there were 6 big reports taken out, 6 big reports, and a normal guy wouldn't understand anything. In the radiologist has to see everything. What, how is it doing? He has the different kind of metrics coming from the software, and and then he creates a summarized report out of it. Now, what these guys have done is now they have built a product around radiology, and they are using object detection very heavily there. And with the help of that, it helps them create or assist, I'll say, not create, I'll say assist. It helps them assist that concern a radiologist to create that report. So that is making his task much, much easier. So that is one experience which I recently had, and I also had a talk with them. They are targeting the spine, the knee, and all the orthopedics diagnosis there. Then the other disease diagnose example, if we see, there's a lot which have been done into skincare, into heart areas, and all. I'll just think about a very. My screen is shared, right? Okay, fine. It's already been shared only. Um, here. So it's a very nice article which I was reading yesterday. So yeah, this was a part maybe which I was speaking. This is diagnosis and how they have done a lot. People are building models where they are detecting whether it's a lung cancer or stroke based out of CT scan. At the at the later part, also we'll be building a small CNN model where we'll be using X-rays and we'll be seeing whether it is uh, it's normal X-ray or you have pneumonia or COVID there. So with the help of just the CT scans, showing the machine a lot of SCADI scans, and with the help of convolutional neural networks, a lot of patterns and insights have been detected or taken out from those CT scans and X-rays, and people are telling whether you have a lung cancer, whether it is pneumonia, COVID, and such kind of thing. With the smartwatches these days, we are getting the pulse rates in our hands, we are finding the SpO2 ratings, and even into electrocardiogram or the cardiac MRI images. A lot has been done here. Uh, People do a normal ECG at first, and if you want to do something more, then they go for 2D echo and some further tests also. And even in this uh, ECG graph finding and 2D echo, AI can come handy. Like if you just show him the ECG report, that can go as an input to the model, and by showing a lot of ECG images, that can help the concerned cardiologist whether it's normal, whether it is abnormal, what are the abnormal areas. It can come up with a very beautiful and a summarized report just from those ECGs. Classifying skin lessons in skin images, this comes into a classification problem where if you show any model a lots of skin images, it will come into like what exactly skin problem it has. And even from the eye images, you have an indication of diabetic retinopathy. So if we see one thing here, all this medical diagnosis is revolving around images. Everything, whether it's CT scan, MRI, this all these things is revolving around images. So it's a blend of computer vision, deep learning, and ML. And currently, image segmentation, object detection, classification, these algos are used heavily here for whatever thing it is. For if it's a CT scan classification problem, just from the CT scan, you need to tell whether it is you have. Is any question? Anyone? Okay, sorry. So now one way if we see it's you have images, you have computer vision images here, and now you have in your hands segmentation, object detection, and classification. So these are the only things which are done by our data scientists and these computer vision experts. From the CT scans, we can come up whether it's a COVID or it's a non-COVID thing that can be done from any MRI report by doing object detection and such kind of thing. You build a summary by seeing the ECGs, they come up with a summary. You can do classification of skin diseases. So at the end of the day, the data scientist is just doing three activities there. Either he's doing any object detection, either he's doing any segmentation, or he's doing or he's doing any classification kind of thing. And computer vision libraries are very heavily used here. So which libraries are used? For computer vision activities, many people just blindly go with OpenCV, and OpenCV is used very heavily. For YOLO, you have your own packages and its library. For object detection, you have many frameworks. YOLO is the most powerful one, and there are some other frameworks also like Detecto, and even those are used. Then for classification, you build a CNN model with the help of deep learning, and the images are taken as input. So in this way, into disease diagnosis, the work in AI has being done, and that is how my exposure has been into healthcare. There can be much into this, but this is what I have seen into industry. And at research level and at many big companies, more advanced things must definitely be there. Then the second most prominent use case which is seen is developing the drugs faster. So we know, we all must have seen that we all were waiting for the Covaxin and Covishield, and even today around Omicron, people have things like whether you need a booster dose or whether you need a new vaccine or so. So even we know that for coming up with Covishield, uh, uh, not remembering the name, AstraZeneca. So AstraZeneca took time. Today there are many vaccines in industry, and everyone has to go their own ways and all. Even I remember some sample people were given vaccine at first, and then some of them died because of it, and there was a big news out of it that are the vaccines safe or not. So in drug development, generally, this is how it works. They identify the target molecules, and they discover effective drugs. They speed up the clinical trials, and they find the biomarkers. The guys who are really expert into biomedical engineering, they must be knowing these things into much detail. And this is the area where speeding up the clinical trial, then discovering the effective combination of drug, this is where AI can come very handy, because are a lot of combinations here. What will try? You need to have an expert here, or even for new diseases, it's an entire plain ground. With AI, it can come very handy. So even for speeding up the clinical trials, you can automatically identify suitable candidates on the basis of their past medical history and so many other factors. Nowadays, not in India, but in other developed countries like Germany and US, all the medical history is being maintained. And I'll just talk about one startup which actually revolves around this. Uh, I think so. Her name is Vayo or Suzo. I don't remember. But what they are trying to do is that because the patients have a lot of medical history and all these things are on paperwork, you need to make a summary out of it. And many of the hospital industry, or many of the renowned hospitals, they are hiring data scientists just for this work. They want a summarized medical history of any patient, because in India a lot of paperwork is done, and either you need to maintain all those paperwork, or one like Recently, if someone must be from Akola, they must have heard about Sahara Multi-Specialty Hospital. So when my granny was had her cardiac arrest, so while taking the discharge, I had a talk with the concerned hospital person, like, how do you work on this medical history stuff? Because in coordination itself, we had a few clients who approached for POCs just for this thing. So he told us that currently what they were doing is he has every paperwork, every IPD paper, every paperwork which was given by doctor of every patient in the hospital, and he has just stored them up. And what he's trying to do is later on he'll be scanning all those documents with the help of a scanner, and then all those documents would be in the form of PDFs. But now, if you have the PDFs, and for example, any patient who comes there after 2 3 years back with something else, now just imagine if that patient's past medical history is known to the doctor, and if we have a centralized system where this is built, it would be so handy. Because today we don't have good doctors, that is the truth. People are very choosy in doctors. They don't want to try a new doctor, they don't want to give a chance to a new doctor, so they only go to those doctors who are really good, because it's a thing of their life. Even if they have to wait for a day or hours, they wait, but they go to that doctor only. Now that doctor has so many patients. Like, for my mother's lumbar surgery, there were like 50 patients, and within 5 minutes, the doctor was clearing each patient. It is very hard. Now, if you really want to have the that like that is the exact grade, that's the exact area where summarizing this history, this medical history of the candidate comes into handy. A new patient comes up, doctor just checks the summary of the patient. He does not even will ask whether you have sugar, diabetes, or what kind of treatment you had. Many people don't even know about these things. Like, many educated guys also don't know that what thyroid is, what BPs is, and what sugar is. People are very unknown and unaware of this thing, and doctors don't have time. They don't have time, and good doctors, they really don't have time. And that is where, if we just maintain this summarized medical histories of all these candidates, it would come very handy. Now, even in this third step, while just speeding up the clinical trials, if you want to find the suitable candidates, it is so easy if you just have all the medical summarized histories of all the candidates. And there's some fourth step of finding the biomarkers for diagnosing the disease. So, yeah, so even in the case of this example of building drugs faster, like Covaxin and Covishield took around 1 year. They must have used some sort of BI or AI tools for sure. They are one of the best pharmaceutical companies, and they must have used a lot of AI thing also while picking those 10 candidates on which they were trying the drug for the first time, coming up with the combinations. They must have used AI there, what combination. They must have used simulation there a lot. And this is where AI is being impacting heavily there. Now, we have seen diagnosis, we have seen drug building, even the other side of medical insurance, even there also AI comes very handy. Personalized treatment, yes, many people are sensitive to many drugs. They are like, you must have seen, we all must have had that one friend who is allergic to fans. He just cannot slip with a high fan speed. So now that person needs to be treated somewhat differently than other patients. If, for example, if he comes up with something with lungs or with pneumonia or COVID, he needs to be treated differently. And definitely designing the right treatment plan and discovering which characteristics indicate that a patient will have a particular response to a particular treatment. That is where AI can come very handy. Then, last but not the least, gene editing. So this is something which even I'm not much aware of, because any biomedical engineer would have a very much idea of what this is. Uh, CRISPR system is, I think, so used for gene editing, and they have said that it's a big leap forward in our abilities to edit DNA. And there's a lot of bottleneck there while selecting the guide RNAs. And if you want to avoid the unintended side effects, and if you want to predict the degree of both the target interactions and the side effects, AI can come handy. So these are some of the examples or the use case into medical industry. One another use case on which I personally have worked at Unifor was on medical insurance summarization. So this is how generally the AI problem is solved. We'll discuss about that later, and then problem solving thing. But before moving there, any doubts or questions up till now?
Participants, you can put your questions in chat box or you can
Yeah,
unmute.
sure. Yeah, we can have that session. Or if anyone has any of his or her own experience, please feel free. Like, I know there are many renowned folks here, many guys with PhD degrees. So even they can add of their own experiences and their own thing if they want to share. Please feel free.
Yeah.
Yes, I recall that I had been to Dr. Opin's clinic in 2001 in Dubai. That time I was sensitive to one drug during viral fever with cough, and I rehabilitated after 4 years in 2008. This, he had a history. Yes, that is where people are people in India are very reckless about it. And I'll tell you one personal incident which I have faced in my family. Uh, my uh, cousin aunt, my cousin aunt, I recall the experience when you explain. Okay, thanks. My cousin aunt actually, she just went to marriage day before, like 1 day back, and she was having BP and sugar problems, and she ate, like everyone forces you to eat sweet and all such kind of things into marriage, and you can't say no to them. And she also had her own set of sweets and those kind of things. The next day, she woke up and she was having a lot of weakness and headache. So when someone says weakness and headache, you just go to a family clinic at first. Now she used to stay in a village near Amravati, and my uncle took her to the doctor, and the doctor was very popular. So he was having lots of patients there and all. So he just normally asked that क्या हुआ and all those things. She said कि हाँ मैं कल शादी में गई थी and ये सब हुआ नहीं हुआ. And he said okay fine, a weakness है तो आपको saline लगानी पड़ेगी. And then he just injected the saline. Now what happened there is there the doctor made a blunder. Now the people who have sugar, they have a different kind of a saline, and the people who don't have sugar, they are okay with both. There's something kind of that thing, like the one who have sugar problems, their salines are different. Now because of that huge rush and because of the inexperience of this thing, that okay, the sugar guys have a different saline. No one knows this. Even I was not knowing it. No one knows it. So even the doctor must have normally asked that कुछ था क्या पहले? So she was like नहीं 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 okay okay, and वो normal वाली saline लगा दी थी, and she was feeling the pain. The pain increased a lot. She said that it's paining, and at beginning, what does a normal guy does? He just said okay fine, मेरे को थोड़ा सह लो Sahelia, and then all of a sudden she just screamed. She's like, no, just take it out, just take it out, just take it out. And later on, she just felt unconscious at the same spot because the saline was taken out. She was unconscious. Now, because that's a village, you need to have auto and all to go to a main hospital. Now, auto was called, and in the midway itself, she lost her life actually. And the reason for that was just because of those marriage activities and all, her BP was already high, her sugar levels were high, and the saline which was given to her by the doctor was not of was the one which had sugar in it. So the sugar levels increased by a lot. The sugar levels she had were like, I don't remember the figure, but they were very high, like 5,000 mg or something. And just because of this blunder, just because of this thing that you cannot sugar patients could different salines OTA, she lost her life, and we lost a very important member in our family. And in India, people are reckless, they don't take care. But if, for example, if there was a medical history of her and the doctor would have just entered her name and would have just seen, okay, fine, she's a sugar patient, and he would have been careful. And even I had a talk with a doctor regarding this thing. So she told me that it's a standard practice of any doctor to ask the patient, but maybe he might have skipped it or something, and it just went everything negative. But that was something which could have been avoided if the medical histories are maintained. Back to our thing, we just went very off route. Uh, yeah. So we talked about diagnosis. So we'll just speak on how exactly any AI problem is solved by us into industry. And later, then I'll be discussing about my practical experience in these two problems, call summarization using AI. And finally, we'll be doing COVID detection using X-ray or CT scan. Okay. Kind of end-to-end demo kind of a thing. Okay. So first thing, let's discuss on how any AI problem is solved into industry or what exactly is done. At the end of the day, any person is building a product. Fine. We are building product for clients. The client is building product for his clients, for his customers. Okay. But we are building the product for the client. These clients are generally from Europe, maybe USA, majorly from there only. And we also have from Southeast Asia. Okay. Now, because AI is having so much hype, the guys who have their product into marketing, they want to add the AI element into it because that has become a necessity now. Okay. Now that has become a necessity, whether your product has AI or not. The marketing folks market their product in this way that, okay, we are having the AI feature, we'll do this, we'll do that. And with that, they have their higher subscription things and higher rates also. Now, currently into industry, it's a mandatory thing now. Your product needs to have AI. Very few products have, very few renowned products don't have AI. They're not using AI. One such thing I remember is this Zerodha app. Zerodha folks don't have a data scientist, and even there was a interview taken that why you're not using AI, and even those say that no, it's not needed. But apart from them, many of the folks have AI. Now clients comes to software builder, software building things like TCS, Infosys, or we guys that we want to have add AI features. Now the BAs just come up with the requirements, and the first question which we ask as a data scientist is, do you have data? Without data, we are half ineffective there. But the clients, many of the time, they don't have data, but they just want it. And even the company, for billable purpose, they are like, no, we have to do it. Make your own data if they don't have it. Now, if they have the data, you we try to first understand the problem statement. Everything begins by understanding the problem statement. Here I've written gathering data as the first step, but the first step is just understanding the problem statement. In many cases, AI is not needed. Only some data engineering SQL things can solve your problem. But in that is the first thing. You have to just understand what the problem statement is. I'll tell you about the call summarization example parallelly. I won't have to explain it again. So Unifor works into BPO industry. BPO is a 300 billion industry, and everyone has their own customer care service. And customer care is a very important service. Everyone wants to retain their customers, and everyone don't want to lose their customers. The competition is so high. Now into healthcare industry, how this BPO comes into picture is whenever you want to settle any claims or you want to have a talk regarding your plan with the concerned insurance company, the medical insurance company, you make a simple call to them and you solve their queries and those things. Now, that is the area where call summarization using AI is one of the feature which Unifor has implemented. They said it with the name of real-time summarization. Real-time summarization. And how it works is like the conversation is usually between the agent and the customer. Okay, the agent is the healthcare agent, and the customer is the people who have taken the insurances. So they both are having a call. Fine. At the end of the day, the output which we want is you need to have a summary. You need to have an entire summary of a conversation which is important for a healthcare insurance company. Now, this entire activity, what happens is even when you have a talk with any Swiggy guy or any Amazon guy, what they have to do is they have to maintain a record. Fine. In some companies, the call itself is recorded, but it is a very expensive activity because you have to save the entire call, and more than expensive, you are not, the entire call is not necessary for you. You want to just know the some of the insights which are important for your company, and that is where call summarization comes into play. Now what we did at that time was whatever things which were important for that for the United Health Group, the medical insurance company of US, we created a summary out of it. The customer and the agent had a conversation, and whatever things which are which are important for the company were just with the press of a click, a summary was created. Summary like what's the patient's name, what is his disease, what are the claim dates, so all the important things which he had. On top of that, the entire product was built. What things you want to have in the summary, all the customization was given. We had a beautiful UI into Angular, built into Angular. The backend was there into Spring Boot Java. We use microservice architecture, and this NLP was one of the API being exposed there. And that is how the entire product was built, and that is the exact thing sold by Unifor. And they have many active clients in USA, Europe, and even Southeast Asia. Now, how we did it, like the first thing which now Unifor is a product based company, so we made a product, and now the marketing guys go to different kind of companies and they say that this product will come handy to you. You use it for a few while, and then if you like it, just use it again. And that is how Unifor works, because they have a product, okay, and they are selling it now. But if you have or if you see a standard ML problem, any person comes to the concerns of the company that build a product. We start with what the problem statement is. We understand whether AI is needed there or not, or any data engineering things can just solve the problem. If the data engineering things can solve the problem, data scientists are not involved there. Generally, data scientists and data engineers in many companies, people play both the roles. Like I have been a data engineer for one of the client, at there I used to do data engineering things also. In some projects, I was just a data scientist because at that time, data engineer was allocated to me. So if you don't have a data engineer allocated, the data scientist is required to do both the things. You need to be good into SQL also. Now, understanding the problem statement is done. Now, the next thing comes is okay, fine. If you've decided, fine, we are going to use AI. Now, the next thing comes is how to solve it. What is the problem statement and how you approach it. And it begins with whether you have the data or not. Data is sent to us by the client in the form of POC. Generally, it works in this way that just do a POC to us at first. And if you like the POC, then we'll take it ahead and we'll scale it up. Now, for POC, the POC can be a paid POC or a free POC, depends on the company. In Collatation, being a startup, we do a lot of free POCs because it's a startup and they want to capture the client. So we do lots of free POCs, and if the client likes it, he approaches us then and he's like, fine, just take it ahead. Now scale it up. Now for in this POC thing, sometimes you want to have data. Now there are data security and data masking and data anonymization. You must have heard about these concepts. So these concepts come into play. People don't want to reveal their sensitive information to us. So you have to either access their data on a virtual machine using Optum or any other channel, and you have to do whatever model building you're doing there only. You cannot just do it on your own local here. You have to do it there. That is one way. Or another way is that we all know that VMs are not fast. Uh, VMs don't work that fast, so it's very slow and all. So another way, what we do is you get mask data. You anonymize the data which is sensitive, like account information, the client's name, his personal details like his credit card, and such kind of things are masked. There are many packages and many things which are used into data anonymization and masking. And then we build a POC and do the thing on mass data. In UMR also, while customizing the product for many clients, we used to get mass data only. They just used to do masking of the sensitive information and they used to send it to us and just do a POC of a product and then we'll see how it works. So here the first two steps are done. You are very clear that you're going to solve it using AI problem statement, and you're also very clear that how you're going to solve it. If you have data, you can go with label data approaches like supervised learning approaches. Or if you don't have data, then in many cases you have to annotate the data. So even automatic annotizing crons are also written in many cases where you annotate the data. And in some cases, if you don't have the label data, then you have to go with something else only. You have to use pre-trained libraries and pre-trained packages, and that is how it works. On top of that, you have a very stiff deadline. They want things in 1 week, 2 weeks. You don't have time for R&D. You don't have good data. That makes it challenging. On top of that, if you have sprint and agile, then there's a testing team sitting on you that no, we need to do testing, just give us the build by 7 days only, we need 3 days for testing. So these are the challenges we face, and that is why we prefer not to keep data science stuff into agile sprint, just follow a Kanban board or altogether different thing. So the first two steps are done. Then once you have the data, now, what you do is you clean the data. Now, clean data, data munging, you pre-process the data. On the kind of data, you have different pre-processing activities. If it's a tabular data, you have different activities. If it's NLP data, you have different activities. In UMR, we had NLP data. We have textual data. So we removed all the unimportant words, stop words. Then we removed all the uh, uh, punctuation marks and the website links and the other erroneous words which come. In UMR, what we had was we had uh, a diarized speech to text uh, a model in place. Now, when the agent and customer used to have a conversation, you used to have a diarized output. Now, what diarized is, I'll just give you an example. Now, what diarized is, you have the customer talking like, "Hello, my name is so and so." Sorry. You have the agent talking. You have the agent talking. "Hello, my name is Michael, and how may I help you?" Then you have the customer talking. "Hello, my name is Akshay, and I want to know my claim status." Then you have the agent again. "Okay, okay, fine. Can you just tell me your customer ID?" And such kind of conversation. Now, when you have now this actual talk is done into speech by using by agent and customer. This thing is converted into such kind of a diarized text output by using diarization to text modeling. At Unifor, we build Unifor has its own speech to text model also. But for UMR, we used Nuance API. So you must have heard that few months back, Microsoft bought Nuance. So currently, Nuance is a part of Microsoft, and we used Nuance API, diarization API, and the diarization API also has its own limitation. Now, Nuance, the API which was exposed to us, was trained on US US accent. So even accent creates a problem. The Indian accent, that API doesn't works properly. You have accuracy issues there. Now, because UMR was a US client, so we use that, and it was trained on extensively on uh, speech of the US people and their accent. The accuracy of that speech to text was roughly 75 to 80% in middle of that. If you just test it on an English accent, it drops more. It goes to 70. So we used that, and with that we had such kind of output of speech to text, like agent customer. Now here you had many issues which were introduced because of the speech to text modeling. That there were spelling issues, there were some kind of word sense disambiguation issues. The spelling was wrong, sometimes it was not proper. So all these activities were involved around cleaning the data. So we made sure that the words are not having wrong spelling. We make sure that no word sense disambiguation thing was there. We remove all the stop words. We clean all the erroneous thing like punctuation marks and dot semicolon. Sometimes you take pause like, okay, and that K is comes a Y is so big. So even such kind of thing. Sometimes you had many dots there, semicolons there. So that kind of things and cleaning that kind of a data, it comes into data munging and 3% activities. And now once the data is cleaned, now the next step which you have is so your data gathering is done, preparing is done. Next is choosing the training model. Now, now the thing is how you want to go ahead with the model and what kind of a model you want to build. So at Unifor, we had two models built. One was based out of fuzzy logic, where we had a neural network coming up with classification for different kind of intents, and the other one was exact match, where we were leveraging the knowledge based word approach, where we used to come up with the intents. We went ahead with the intent classification approach for coming up with the summary. And now what that it is, like, I'll give you an example. If you must have used Spacey, so Spacey gives you NER, name entity recognition. So we customized Spacey as per our healthcare industry, as per customized UMR, because the default classes categories in Spacey, not everything was useful to us. On top of that, we needed some other classes in the NER, and and we also had having the speech to text translation issues. So even that was one of the challenge. So we had to tweak Spacey, and we customized it as per our need. Now, whenever he used to ask name of hospital, so he used to come up with St. John Hospital. Then that was being detected into organization. We had patient name being detected into person. The one challenge which I'm currently recalling is the way the dates were being translated. That was a challenge. The way normally we speak dates is 23rd March. Okay. Today's date is 16 December, like 16 DEC, 16 December, December 16, we have December 16th. Some people say 16, 12, 21. So Spacey was unable to handle these patterns, and even the translation created more issues. Even while having a talk between the rupee kind of conversation, when they used to talk about your package, like what package do you have, what is the price of it. So normal people don't say we say 2 lakhs, or some people, not lakhs because it was US, so 2 million. So even there we had challenges. Like sometimes it was 1123 dollars. We don't say $1,123. We say 1123. Now Spacey fails there. So because of this general conversation things, which generally we the way humans actually talk, uh, generally, so this created an issue. That's why we had to tweak Spacey, and we created our own classes, and we customized the NER for that typical UMR client. And how it was like, now this PC was detecting us the NERs. It was telling, okay, fine, this is the patient's name, this is the amount, this is the hospital name, this is the date, fine. Now, but we needed to map. Okay, fine, he's telling me the patient's name. Okay, fine. If he's just telling the name, um, Samuel Joseph, fine. So whether Samuel Joseph is the patient's relative or is the patient's name. Now that was another challenge. So we needed to map that NERs with the actual intents which we wanted, which we gave the leverage to the customer to customize it from the UI. So whatever information which was needed, like patient's name, the disease diagnosed, the date of admission, discharge date. Such things are very important when for the insurance folks. Discharge date is very important. The number of days you stayed is important. Disease diagnosis is very important. Date of admission is very important. Now, NER used to give us a date, but whether it is a date of admission or whether it is a date of discharge, for that you need to map that intent. Now, here came the model of intent classification, where from the textual data, we said that, okay, fine, this is a date of admission or whether it is a discharge date. And at last, we just made a cross mapping, or with the algo which we built, we did a mapping of those intents with the entities. And once the mapping was done, the only thing which we needed to do was show them in the summary. And that entire service was dockerized, and it was available in Spring Boot Java, and it was the UI was there in Angular UI, and that is how it is to work. That is how the product was work. That product was built for UMR client, the UMR insurance folks. Now, what they used to do is they used to have their super login. They did the login, and they used to tweak. The fine, I need patient's name. I need the discharge date. I need the date of admission and such kind of things. That was set by them. Then they also had the liberty of adding more training data. Now, for example, now if UMR, Unifor has sold a product to UMR, and now UMR gets a client in Europe, fine, and they have a different accent. Okay, now a different accent would need a different training data. Now, again, it can't come to Unifor. Now, fine, just retrain me again and just do it again. That is not how it works when you sell a product. Now, they had the liberty of adding the training data also. Now, with this new client, they can tweak the training data. They can just retrain the model with just press of one click, and the entire software was again ready to be used for the Euro folks. So that is how we tackled the healthcare problem of this insurance guys, and making their life bit easier. So it is currently used by not two, three. It's currently used by many folks, many billable folks actually. Five, six billable folks, so I only know. And out of those five, six, we have two, three into healthcare. Other are there into other domains. One is into aircraft domain, and other is into food and industry. So that is how this problem of call summarization using AI was approached and solved. We had production issues, we had Jira tickets, and we used to solve the whatever issues and tweakings we needed to do, and it was pushed in the production build. That is how we handled the production support side of a thing. Then apart from that, what we did was once the extent I talked about the customizing part. So in most of the time, what happened was it was not detecting the intent properly, and those kind of things. So we just need to add the proper training data. In some cases, what used to happen was there was a mismatch, like date of admission was being tagged into discharge date, and those kind of problems also. So even there also you just need to tweak the training data, and in some cases you have to tweak the space ner uh, code also, and that is how we solve the production issue. uh, Now that is was training the model. Evaluation, however, during prediction and deployment. So evaluation, how we evaluated it, we used F1 score. We had we specifically make sure that we have a client BA with us who will do the UAT testing with us parallelly. So our UAT tester was involved, very heavily involved in testing activities, because they know the domain well. We know our software well. So because they know the domain well, they will only help us with the training data. We can just make the product for them for in 15, 20 days. We can just tweak them out for them. But the training data, you need someone expert there who has been doing that manual activity for maybe for years, 3, 4 years. He knows exactly, okay, fine, these words are not spoken, these words are spoken. So we had a UAD tester and a BA guy who used to help us with the training data, and we used to do the evaluation. And if whatever changes were there, we used to tackle it that way. That is how we did with the evaluation. The score, we used F1 score at that time. We also had precision recall independently tracked, but in generalized, we just showcasing the sellable part was the F1 score, but we focused on precision recall, F1 score, all the three things. In hyperparameter tuning, yeah. In our case, it was actually done manually because it is all on the having the proper training data, and a domain expert was needed. Generally, in industry, how hyperparameter tuning is done is you have grid search, random search. These two things are heavily used. In neural networks, you have optimizers like Keras Tuner, and you also have some paid tools of Google where you just get the optimum number of layers and the optimum number of nodes into each layer. And if you want to add new layer, if you want to tweak out the layers and all, so that is done. That is how in industry it's done. In classical ML problem, grid search, random search does it. In neural networks, you can use Keras Tuner and such kind of things. Then one thing which came in mind was uh, grid search, random search. I'm not recalling it right now. I missed it. So, and once the evaluation is done, it is evaluated by the client. If client is satisfied, generally these things are decided when the deal is finalized itself. While in UMR's case, the deal was signed that they wanted 80% accuracy, and we were not able to achieve 80% because there were many layers actually there. On top of that, there was a layer of diarization. There's a different model for diarization, there was a different model for speech to text, and on top of that these models, so the accuracy was low. The diarization model itself, which the UMR guys had a contract with Nuance, was giving us not the 80% accuracy. How can we build a model on top of that which will give you better than that? It was not possible at all. But somehow we were able to satisfy the client at least. And some of the important things which they really needed, like discharge date, then patient's name, disease diagnosis. So such things were very good. They were like bang on above 90. In some cases, the accuracy was less for some classes like date, not date, in rupee section. In rupee section, because of this huge problem of $11223 and that pattern, and some other classes like your billing amount, and there were many classes there. So we had a dip of accuracy metric there, and that was how we did it. Now, when tuning is done, prediction, I'll say it doesn't comes after FML tuning. It is a part and parcel involved into these things. And last but not the least, you have deployment. Deployment is very important. If you can't deploy a model, then it's not worth it. Generally, nowadays, people use cloud for deployment. They expose the APIs by using AWS cloud, and it is then injected into Flask Django framework or maybe a Node.js framework. And generally, into industry, Node.js is heavily used as backend. Into banking and all this, they are still on Java and C Sharp. They won't move to Node.js because Java and all provide a lot of security. But all the new applications, the e-commerce applications and the fancy applications which are built these days, they're built into Node.js only. Uh, some of them are built into Flask and Django also. Some people prefer that. Some people prefer Node. People are preferring Node these days because even for UI at the end you would be using JS only. Currently, React JS have taken the entire market, and Angular's time is gone. Now there's only one ruler in the market for UI, that is React JS, and that's why there's so much search for JS developers. So they don't want to have cross-language platform, JS and Python both. People just want to build everything into a JS only. But in data science right now, people are still stick with Python only. People right now don't build data science model into JS. Some of the pre-trained models have their APIs exposed into JS, so you can just tweak and plug them up. That can be done. But if you want to build any model from scratch, it is still done using Python. Now that is what my entire call summarization using AI and summarization thing was done. So before moving towards the COVID detection using X-ray demo, any questions in this? Or maybe if you have your own experiences, please feel free to share. Okay, I take it as a no. Okay, no questions. Okay, fine, sure. Uh, Last, we have a COVID detection using X-ray, a small POC kind of a demo, how it's done. Now, whatever steps we discussed, I'll just try to see them once again, and maybe we'll have make sense out of it. So, yeah, wait a sec. So this is my, so we have two classes here, COVID and normal. And you have, even in training data sets, you have two classes, COVID and normal here. So how it works is you will get this data from, for example, the respective X-ray hospital and all who have done lots of X-rays and they want to build something on top of it, just to help or just to have an have an understanding whether just by using the X-ray and as CT scan it would be an helping tool for a doctor just to find whether it is COVID positive or not. So if you see the data here, now this is a very clean data. I have picked this data from Kaggle. If you see these X-rays, they're so clean and crisp. Just by seeing it, you have idea. A layman can also have idea that this looks so fresh. If we ignore this white part here, this looks so fresh. And if we see the COVID X-rays here, see this one. It looks so filled with cuff and all. It's not clean. It's very bruisey here. See this one also. This one is clean, but it is bruisey. Here also. Okay. Here it looks a bit similar. So I'm not a CT scan expert guy. But yeah, the general understanding is this only that in normal, you will have very clean, dark X-rays, and the COVID folks won't have much dark. You will have very whitey patches there. So this is a clean data. This is an annotated data. This is a label data. Most of the time, the data scientist actually spends on these thing only, cleaning the data, making the photos into right dimension and all. So here, if we see the properties, the image dimensions are properly set. So even such things are time where the typical data scientist or the computer vision expert spends a lot of time. And this is the training data. And if we see the test data here, so we have some tests and validation data also. Now we'll move to the code part. So there is a small code which I have written. Now here I have leveraged Keras. Keras is a wrapper built on TensorFlow backend, and the de facto, I won't say de facto, but the two most popular libraries for building a neural network are Keras and PyTorch. PyTorch has taken over Keras and TensorFlow, and The newer folks these days prefer PyTorch more over TensorFlow. But in some cases, people go ahead with TensorFlow also. Both do the same thing. It is not like uh, they are just two packages or libraries which are used for building models. PyTorch is built by Facebook. It has the backing of Facebook, and Keras and TensorFlow has the backing of Google. So these are the two major giants used. Uh, Fine. So we'll just start. So here I'm just importing the packages. So this is my convolutional neural network which I've designed. Why don't we use ANN here over CNN? And the reason for that is there are three major reasons why CNNs are preferred over images. The reason is image variance, curse of dimensionality, and overfitting issues. So these three are the major reasons where, like, whenever there is an image into picture, people go with CNNs over ANNs. Here I have just built initialized a sequential object and added convolutional 2D layers. My activation function is ReLU. Input shape is 64 by 64 by 3. My kernel size is 3 by 3, and the number of filters which I've taken is 64. Why 3 by 3? The answer for this is that you must have heard about AlexNet. That was a project which won. I don't remember whether it was the first ImageNet competition, but it won the ImageNet competition. And from that time also, this has become an industry standard practice of keeping the kernel size as 3 by 3. So here I've done it. Then after my COF 2D layer, I have a max pooling 2D layer. Uh, Max pooling is generally used for handling the overfitting. How max pooling works is you take the maximum value out of the pixel values which you are having. Uh, so for example, here, okay. So, for example, this is a 2 by 2 matrix, and these are the pixel values. You have 2, 3, 8, and 1 year. By max pooling, what we'll be doing is we'll be picking 8 to represent this. So there are different kind of pooling. You have mean pooling, you have average pooling also. People go with max pooling by default. Then the pool size here is 2 by 2. Here I've reduced my number of filters to 32. Generally, people do it vice versa. People start with low numbers first and then increase the number of nodes, number of filters. And the reason being that is at beginning, the way convolutional neural network work is you first come up with small patterns, and then you try to come up with major big patterns. So it's okay to lose on small patterns, but you need to have the major distinctive patterns more better. So that is why people go vice versa. uh, Once this COF 2D and max pooling layer is done, you have a flattened layer which converts that image matrix into a single layer. So this is how, for example, my convolutional filter output is. Sorry. Now this gets converted into a flattened single layer matrix here with all the values. Yeah. So this is the input. My convolutional filters are here. Each filter is capturing one feature, and these are the different pooling outputs. And then you have applied a flatten function here, is converting this into a serial univariate array, one dimensional array. Then once flatten is done, there's one more hidden layer here of unit 104, and you have 104 units there, and the activation function there is ReLU. ReLU is used because you want to add non-linearity. You want to capture the non-linearity patterns. Once the architecture is done, you compile it. Default standard practice optimizer is Adam. There are other also, uh, RMS prop and others. Loss is binary cross entropy because it's a binary classification problem. It is covert or normal. Metrics are kept as accuracy. Okay. Here I'm using image data generator because you must have seen that the number of images were very less. Now, if you want to build a robust model, then you apply image augmentation techniques where you want to enhance the pattern finding just from the data you have. Now, how we will be doing is we can use the image data generator class of Keras. You have different parameters to add the augmentation. You have rescale, you have shear range. Shearing is this way, zooming, and you have horizontal flip through. And this is done for train. For test, I'm just keeping it resale as this. And here I'm standardizing it, making the pixel values between 0 and 1. And I've used your flow from directory because my images are kept in folders. And the batch size is 4, the target size is 64 by 64. So this is the augmentation part. So it is saying me that I have 181 images belonging to two classes, and 46 are there into test, and 181 is there into train. And last, you're training your neural network. I've kept the epoch size as 5. The steps per epoch is 40. Now, these are the different hyperparameters which you can tune to increase the accuracy and to make the model more robust. Here, you can use Keras Tuner and such kind of tools. The validation data is my test data, and validation steps I've kept as 8. These are different. Generally, this is a small POC, so I've kept as 5. If the accuracy is not coming up to the mark, then you can increase it. Here we can see that validation accuracy is almost 1, and the train accuracy is 85, 86. So it is good to go. At first, if you can see that it was very less, 45, and then we increased it. Generally, neural networks are tend to overfit, and how we can handle overfit is you can add a dropout layer here uh, to handle the overfitting side. And now this is my model trained. I either I can save it or I can use a early stopping to get the proper and the most appropriate metric. What here I've done is I've taken a sample image which is there in my folder COVID and normal, and I'm passing it to my train model here, and I'm predicting whether it is normal or COVID. These 1 and 0 are my class indices, just to tell it is whether it is normal or COVID. So I'll show you the image. This is the image here, and it is pretty much clear that this image can't be normal. This needs to be a COVID image. So let's see if it works, or we'll have to do something more. So it worked. It is predicting me COVID. Now, this is a sample POC kind of thing, which I've explained here. Now, how it goes into deployment and production is you save this model. You save this model, And then this model is idle. If you want to run it on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, then you can write a scheduled cron. Or if you want to make it real time, then you can write your code according to that. You can, if it's a cron, then you don't need to have an API. You can write a cron, and you can schedule it. It will run on a monthly or a weekly basis. If it's a API exposed thing, then either you can go ahead with leveraging the cloud facilities. You can use Amazon, Google, deploy your code there, and expose the API, and that would be used by the backend. Or you can just go ahead by using some other packages like Py Cherry Picker, and then create an expose API. So that is how the deployment is done, and then it is tested by the testing team, and they come up with their own findings, and then you rework on the model, and then you change the training data, and you come up with more evaluations, and that is how it's done. So this was a small example of how a POC is done. You have a UI on top of it. Uh, if you really want to show a POC also, people show it with UI. You can just build a small HTML, CSS UI where you can just pick up this typical image, which is right now here. You can just drag it there on the UI, and am I not audible? Can anyone confirm me? Okay, fine, fine. Yeah, so that is how it's done, and that is how we actually do into IT. In research side, I'm not much aware because I didn't had any exposure like how uh, things are really done into colleges while people doing their PhDs and MTech guys. The audience itself is that crowd. So if anyone wants to share their example, like how they go ahead and how they do things while building any theses, or can go ahead with that. But in IT, while building products, we have a deadline on ahead, we have production issues on ahead, so we have to compromise on many areas. In many places where you know that the model will take at least at least 1 month to build, but the client wants it in 1 week, and he's okay by using the pre-trained libraries and all. So that is how the game of finding the best fit is done into IT. Yeah. Thank you. That's it from me. Yeah. Any queries, questions? Maybe if anyone can have their experiences, can even I would love to know. Okay. Mm, thank you. I'm taking the speech in an affirmative way. I hope it was of some value to you. Yeah. So I'll just, if you want to connect with me, I'm there on LinkedIn. Uh, you gave many clues. Okay, fine. If you want to connect with me, I'm there on LinkedIn. You can just search for Akshay Ugale. Would love to connect you. I can see so many PhD folks here, so even love to connect with you and love to know about your work also. Or if in any area I can add any AI value, that I would love to know more about it. And yeah, one another place where you can connect me with is I have my own YouTube channel, this AS Learning, where I keep uploading stuff about AI and also other things. So you're in this 60 up till now playlist. There are many videos I've uploaded, so you can connect me there also. So yeah, that's it from me. It was thanks for this opportunity, and yeah, hand over to you, Kalyan.
Thank you, Akshay. Can you please share a link of your channel in a chat
Yeah,
box?
sure. I'll do it. This app. So this COVID detection X-ray also, I've explained it there also, and there are many other end-to-end projects which I've explained there. We up till now have. I'm not as good as Krish Naik or Code Basics, but yeah, I'm doing this my part. So this thing which we discussed, code detection using X-ray. So this typical thing you can find here. Just share this thing in the chat. The channel name is AS Learning. If you like the content, feel free to subscribe and share. And I'm anytime there to solve my doubts if I am capable of solving. So yeah, would love to know about your theses and your work, and if any other AI thing you guys have done or you can have explored. And yeah, so would love to interact, would love to be a part of this community, and would love to learn and would love to share my knowledge also. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you for such a nice session. And thank you for sharing your resources with us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.